The throne room of the Dominion Spire stretched before Arya Lorne like a cathedral built to intimidate. Crystalline pillars rose toward a vaulted ceiling that shimmered with captured starlight. And at the center of it all stood General Vakor, his forearms crossed in a gesture that radiated contempt. This? Vakor's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among the Kreshtar. This is what Earth sends as their ambassador? Arya kept her chin level, though her heart hammered against her ribs. She was 23, fresh from the Saul Diplomatic Academy, and completely unprepared for the wave of derision that rippled through the assembled alien dignitaries. The Kreshtar Empire controlled 17 star systems. Humanity controlled barely one. "I speak for Earth," Arya said, her voice steadier than she felt. "You speak for insects," Vakor corrected, his obsidian eyes, all 6 of them, fixed on her with predatory focus. "Your species stumbled into the stars a mere century ago. We have ruled for 10,000 years. You have no military, no leverage, no respect." The gathered nobles hissed their agreement. Arya recognized representatives from a dozen species, all client races of the Kreshtar, all watching her like she was entertainment. "Then why agree to this meeting?" Arya asked. Vakor's laugh was a chittering sound that made her skin crawl. "Because watching lesser species beg is instructive. It reminds our subjects of their place." He gestured with one clawed hand. "But perhaps you need a more visceral demonstration. Bring forth Shakar." A murmur of excitement swept through the crowd. Arya heard the name whispered with fear and reverence. She tensed as massive doors groaned open at the far end of the hall. The creature that emerged was nightmare given form. Shakar stood 3 meters tall at the shoulder, its body a mass of corded muscle beneath midnight black fur. 6 legs moved with predatory grace, each tipped with retractable claws that scarred the polished floor. Its head was distinctly feline but elongated, with a jaw that could swallow a human whole. Rows of bioluminescent markings pulsed along its flanks, shifting from blue to violent red. A Kreshtar handler guided it with neural controls, but even technology couldn't mask the beast's raw power. This was a Velshara, apex predator from a heavy-gravity world, bred and enhanced by Kreshtar bioengineers for one purpose: war. "Shakar has killed 300 enemies in combat," Vakor announced with pride. "It is bonded to me, obeys only me, and has never shown mercy to those who challenge the Empire." He smiled, mandibles spreading wide. "Would you like to pet it, little human?" Laughter erupted. Arya felt her face flush, but not with embarrassment, with anger. She'd studied the Kreshtar for years. She knew their culture valued strength above all, that they viewed diplomacy as weakness, that they respected only power. She also knew something they didn't. Arya stepped forward. The laughter died. Vakor's expression shifted from amusement to confusion as she walked directly toward Shakar, her movements calm and unhurried. The handler's antennae twitched nervously. "Human, I would not," Vakor began. Arya ignored him. She stopped 3 meters from the Velshara, well within its kill radius. This close she could smell it, musk and ozone and something electric. The predator's head swiveled toward her, 6 eyes focusing with laser intensity. And then Arya did something no one expected. She sat down. Cross-legged on the cold floor, hands resting on her knees, she simply sat. And she began to hum, a soft, wordless melody her grandmother had taught her. An old Earth song, pre-spaceflight, the kind humans had once used to soothe frightened animals. "What is she doing?" Someone whispered. Shakar's bioluminescent markings flickered from red to orange. Its massive head tilted, analyzing. The neural controls buzzed as the handler tried to redirect its attention, but the creature took a step forward. Then another. Vakor's expression darkened. "Stand down, human. Shakar is not a pet. It is a weapon." Arya didn't stop humming. She slowly extended one hand, palm up, non-threatening. An offering. An invitation. The Velshara lowered its enormous head until its breath washed over her in hot waves. 6 eyes studied her face. In that moment, Arya understood what the Kreshtar had never considered. That intelligence and predatory instinct weren't the same thing. That a creature bred for war might still recognize something primal and ancient. Recognition. Not of dominance, but of kinship. Shakar's markings shifted to deep blue, the color Arya had learned of calm, of trust. And then the apex predator did something it had never done before. It bowed, not the submissive crouch of a defeated animal, but a deliberate lowering of its massive head until its forehead touched the floor before Arya's crossed legs, a gesture of respect. The throne room exploded into chaos. Nobles shouted in disbelief. The handler frantically worked his controls, but Shoc ignored them entirely. The creature remained bowed, a mountain of lethal muscle rendered docile by something the Kreshtar couldn't comprehend. Vakor's mandibles spread wide in shock. Impossible. The neural bond, I am its master. Arya finally stopped humming. She gently placed her hand on Shocar's head, feeling the vibration of a purr that could shake foundations. When she spoke, her voice carried through the stunned silence. You're not its master, General. You're its prison warden. She stood slowly, and Shoc rose with her, positioning itself at her side like a guardian. You Kreshtar have ruled for 10,000 years through force, Arya continued. Her earlier nervousness burned away by righteous conviction. You see strength only in domination. But humans, we survived ice ages by cooperating with wolves. We turned apex predators into companions. We learned that true strength isn't controlling others, it's earning trust. Vakor's claws extended. This proves nothing. You've performed a trick. Have I? Arya met his gaze without flinching. Or have I shown your entire empire something terrifying? That the weak humans might understand the creatures you've enslaved better than you ever could? The implications rippled through the crowd. How many other species had the Kreshtar conquered? How many might listen to a different approach? Arya took a step forward and Shoc moved with her, a living shadow. Earth doesn't want war, General. But if you force it, remember this moment. Remember that your most loyal weapon chose to bow before a lesser species. Ask yourself what else you might not understand about us. The silence was absolute. Finally, Vakor spoke, his voice stripped of mockery. What does Earth want? Arya smiled. To talk. As equals. The general stared at her for a long moment, then at Shoc, whose markings glowed steady blue. He gestured with one trembling claw. Very well. Ambassador Lorne, let us talk. As Arya walked toward the negotiating table, Shoc padding beside her, she caught her reflection in the crystalline pillars. She still looked 23, still looked small in this vast empire. But sometimes, she thought, the quietest voices carried the furthest, and sometimes, even predators knew when they'd met something unexpected. Not another predator, but something uniquely, impossibly human.